Lara Whitmore smiled for the cameras, the world seeing only a billionaire widow at the height of her success. But behind that perfect smile lay a darkness. No one could imagine a deadly obsession that would end the life of the man she once called husband Adrian Crest. Lara Whitmore's life began in a place that rarely appeared on maps, a cold and quiet corner of Montana, where winters were long and dreams were usually small. Her parents worked simple jobs, and their home was filled with routines that never changed. While others in her town accepted this life, Lara felt trapped by it. Even as a child, she watched documentaries about entrepreneurs and imagined building an empire of her own someday. The more she learned, the more determined she became to escape the cycle of small-town living. She spent her free time studying finance books from the local library, filling notebooks with ideas no one around her understood. When Lara earned a scholarship to a university in Seattle, she saw it as her first real opportunity. She was focused, disciplined, and hungry for success. The crowded city, with its endless lights and constant movement, felt like a completely different world from what she had known. It energized her. She graduated with honors in economics and secured a job in a financial firm, where she quickly made a reputation for her bold ideas. Still, she felt she was meant for more than analyzing numbers for someone else. She wanted to create something that would change her life permanently. During this time, she met Adrian Crest, a talented software engineer who lived a quiet and thoughtful life. They crossed paths at a tech networking event. Adrian was impressed by her ambition, while she admired his calm confidence. He grew up in a supportive family, very different from Lara's strict and distant upbringing. Their connection was fast, and within a year, they married and moved to California. Lara believed it was the fresh start she needed, a new chapter in a place where opportunity was everywhere. Life with Adrian was comfortable but simple. He enjoyed calm evenings at home, while Lara wanted to build something extraordinary. She could feel herself becoming restless, as if ordinary life was trying to pull her back into the quiet world she had worked so hard to escape. She began spending long nights researching new business ideas, looking for a concept that could put her on the path to real wealth. Adrian supported her, but he didn't understand the intensity behind her ambition. In the early days of their marriage, the small differences between them didn't matter. But as time went on, the gap widened. Lara felt that Adrian lacked the hunger she had. She wanted someone to push her, challenge her, and chase success with the same fire. Instead, Adrian encouraged balance, reminding her to rest and slow down. She interpreted this as a threat to her dreams. Despite their differences, Lara kept moving forward. Her mind was always working, planning, imagining a life where she no longer had to worry about limits. What she didn't realize was that the fire driving her forward was also beginning to change her. Beneath her ambition, something darker was quietly forming, waiting for the moment when her desire for success would overshadow everything else, including the man she once promised to love. Aurora Ledger was born from a simple frustration Lara experienced while helping a local bakery manage its accounts. The small business owner constantly struggled with tracking expenses, invoices, and daily cash flow. Lara realized that thousands of small businesses across the country faced the same problem. She became convinced that if she could build an easy, automated financial tool, she could fill a huge gap in the market. The idea kept her awake at night, and she spent weeks sketching out designs for a platform that could simplify money management for people who didn't understand complicated accounting systems. With Adrian's technical knowledge and Lara's financial planning, they created the earliest version of Aurora Ledger at their kitchen table. It was slow, unstable, and full of bugs, but it worked well enough to attract a few early users. Lara didn't care about the flaws. She cared about potential. She pitched the idea relentlessly at local tech meets, business events, and anywhere investors gathered. At first, no one believed her small project could compete with bigger companies. Still, she kept pushing, her confidence growing with every minor improvement the platform made. After months of endless work, a small investment firm finally agreed to fund Aurora Ledger. The money allowed Lara to hire a small team, rent an office, and launch a real marketing campaign. Growth was slow but steady. Lara monitored everything obsessively, from customer feedback to software updates to investor meetings. Nothing escaped her attention. She treated every small success as a stepping stone to something greater. Whenever the team celebrated a new milestone, Lara was already thinking ahead to the next one. Aurora Ledger gained traction when a popular business podcast featured Lara's inspiring rise from a humble background. Her story resonated with small business owners who felt overlooked by large financial institutions. Within a year, thousands of users signed up. The sudden influx of customers attracted larger investors, leading to a massive funding round that pushed the company's valuation into the hundreds of millions. Lara's name began appearing in business magazines, and she quickly became known for her sharp mind and fearless determination. As the platform expanded, big companies took notice. A well-known tech giant attempted to buy Aurora Ledger, offering a huge sum. Adrian believed they should accept the deal and enjoy the financial security it promised. But Lara refused. She didn't want to sell her creation. She wanted to dominate the industry. She believed Aurora Ledger could reach $1 billion valuation if she held on to it. Her instincts, driven by ambition rather than caution, turned out to be correct. A breakthrough came when the team added an AI-powered feature that automated expense predictions. The update was revolutionary, and Aurora Ledger suddenly became the top tool for small and mid-sized businesses across the United States. Subscriptions exploded, and the company's value skyrocketed. At 34, Lara officially crossed the billionaire threshold. The girl from Montana, who once dreamed quietly in a tiny library, was now the face of a financial tech empire. Her mansion, her fame, and her influence reflected everything she had fought for. But with every step toward the top, the distance between her and Adrian grew wider. He watched her transform from a determined woman into someone consumed by power, but she couldn't see it. Lara believed she had finally reached the life she deserved, unaware that the empire she built would soon become the center of a darkness she never intended to unleash. As Aurora Ledger's success soared, cracks began to appear in the carefully constructed life Lara had built. On the surface, everything looked perfect. She was a billionaire, a respected entrepreneur, and a public figure admired by millions. Her social media profiles showcased charity donations, glamorous events, and inspirational interviews. She had achieved the dream she had chased relentlessly. Yet beneath the sparkling exterior, her marriage with Adrian was quietly deteriorating. Adrian had never been the ambitious type. He enjoyed simple routines and valued stability over fame or fortune. He watched Lara's rise with pride, but also with concern. She was changing in ways he didn't recognize. The long hours, the intense focus, and the constant pressure to stay at the top had made her impatient, controlling, and increasingly secretive. He tried to voice his worries gently, suggesting they take breaks, travel, or spend time reconnecting. Lara dismissed his concerns, arguing that success required sacrifice and focus. She saw Adrian's caution not as care, but as weakness. Rumors began circulating among their social circle. Close friends noticed Lara's occasional sharp words, the subtle ways she tried to control Adrian's decisions, and the growing distance between them. Business associates whispered that she had become ruthless, willing to push anyone, including her own husband, out of her way. Adrian, meanwhile, felt trapped. He loved Lara, but he didn't recognize the woman he married. She no longer seemed content with shared dreams. She wanted dominance, control, and the assurance that nothing could threaten her empire. Adrian began quietly exploring the possibility of leaving. He didn't want confrontation or scandal. He merely wanted to reclaim his peace. Lara's reaction to his subtle withdrawal was immediate and intense. Fear took hold of fear, not of losing him as a partner, but of losing her carefully curated image. A divorce could expose secrets, reduce her fortune, and in her mind, tarnish her reputation. Lara began to think obsessively about the ways she could prevent this from happening. She started monitoring his activities discreetly, hiring private investigators to track his movements. She sifted through his phone records, emails, and meetings, searching for leverage, anything that could give her control. The investigators found nothing. Adrian had done nothing wrong. Yet Lara's obsession deepened. Every meeting he attended, every call he received, was interpreted as a potential threat. She imagined public scandals, legal battles, and the humiliation of losing half her fortune. The idea that her carefully constructed life could unravel at the hands of the man she once loved was unbearable. Her fear, mixed with ambition, began to turn into something darker, a willingness to go beyond legal or moral boundaries to protect what she had built. Lara's transformation was subtle but undeniable. Outwardly, she remained the charming, brilliant CEO, winning awards, giving speeches, and attending high-profile events. Behind closed doors, however, a new determination had taken a hold. She would not allow Adrian to take anything from her. Her mind, once focused on innovation and growth, now harbored thoughts that were cold, calculating, and increasingly sinister. The woman who had dreamed of success now dreamed of absolute control, and nothing not love, not loyalty, would stand in her way. Her friends noticed it too late. Those who tried to speak to her about Adrian were gently pushed aside. Lara had already made a choice in her mind. She would do whatever it took to secure her empire, even if it meant destroying the very person who had once shared her dreams. The first seeds of what would become an unthinkable act were quietly sown in the mansion she had built, hidden behind wealth, glamour, and a smile that no one suspected could conceal such darkness. The moment Lara discovered Adrian had taken concrete steps toward separation, a chilling clarity settled over her. It began as a quiet dread, the kind that twists and coils in the mind, growing stronger with every detail she uncovered. Adrian had met with a lawyer, discussing property, finances, and a potential divorce settlement. For most people, this would have been a negotiation to navigate with calm rationality. For Lara, it ignited something far more dangerous, the realization that her entire carefully constructed world was at risk. Every image, every public accolade, every business success could be tarnished if Adrian left. In her mind, the solution became horrifyingly simple. She could not allow it. From that moment, Lara's ambition merged with obsession, creating a calculated determination that knew no boundaries. She began spending hours researching methods that could eliminate the problem without leaving a trace. She pored over obscure medical journals, online forums, and old forensic studies. She studied poisons that were nearly undetectable, compounds that could mimic natural causes, and substances that would leave no fingerprints. Every detail mattered, and Lara meticulously noted every potential method, calculating timing, dosage, and risk with precision. At the same time, she grew increasingly careful about her surroundings. She altered security systems to control what could be seen, rerouted camera feeds, and installed hidden backups to erase or manipulate footage. She became hyper-aware of every person who entered her home, noting behaviors that could betray them or expose her plan. She monitored her own digital footprint, ensuring her emails, phone records, and financial transactions would appear normal, even as she built a plan for something far from ordinary. Her public life, of course, remained untouched. She continued to attend high-profile events, give interviews, and appear as the poised, philanthropic billionaire everyone admired. To outsiders, she was flawless, a symbol of determination and achievement. No one suspected the storm brewing behind her perfectly polished facade. Adrian saw only fragments of the change, moments of quiet intensity that he couldn't decipher. She smiled at him, laughed at his jokes, and maintained the appearance of a loving wife, all while the machinery of her plan quietly took shape. The mansion itself became a place of secrets. Rooms once filled with warmth now echoed with calculations and hidden compartments. She tested methods on small animals in private, studying reactions and outcomes. She tracked her own movements meticulously, ensuring every step could be explained if anyone ever questioned her. Her obsession consumed her thoughts, eclipsing memories of affection, laughter, and shared dreams. What had once been love was now a strategic calculation, and Adrian was no longer a partner, he was an obstacle. The final piece of Lara's planning was timing. She studied Adrian's routines, habits, and vulnerabilities, noting patterns that could be exploited. She mapped out scenarios in which he would be alone, most susceptible, and least likely to be helped immediately. Every detail was recorded, reviewed, and refined. Months passed with quiet precision, each day bringing her closer to a reality she convinced herself was necessary. She didn't see herself as cruel. She saw herself as a protector of her empire, a visionary ensuring that nothing, not even the man she had once loved, could threaten the life she had built. By the time her plan was fully formed, Lara had transformed into someone unrecognizable to even herself. The ambition that once inspired innovation now demanded ruthless control. The stakes had grown beyond money or status. They had become a matter of survival in her own mind. Every thought, every action, every breath was measured against one question. How far would she go to protect everything she had created? In the silence of her mansion, surrounded by wealth and hidden dangers, she finally felt ready to act. The summer evening was calm, almost serene, as if the world itself had paused in anticipation of what was about to happen. Lara had spent weeks preparing for this moment, ensuring every detail was perfect, every contingency accounted for. She moved through the mansion with quiet precision, checking each room, adjusting schedules, and making subtle changes to security systems. The house was a maze of careful manipulation, and she navigated it like a conductor leading a symphony, every step choreographed to perfection. Adrian, unaware of the storm building around him, went about his routine as he always had, trusting the woman he had married. When the critical moment arrived, it was almost anticlimactic. Adrian collapsed in the hallway, sudden and shocking, leaving Lara to feign panic. She immediately called for emergency services, her voice measured and calm, the perfect mixture of concern and urgency. First responders arrived within minutes, but despite their best efforts, Adrian could not be revived. The official cause was quickly reported as a cardiac arrest, a natural and tragic event. To anyone observing, it seemed like a cruel twist of fate, the kind of sudden loss that strikes a family without warning. Lara's performance was flawless: tears, trembling hands, and heartache carefully displayed for all who might be watching. In the aftermath, the public narrative formed quickly. Social media and news outlets praised Lara for her composure, highlighting her achievements while lamenting the tragedy. Tributes poured in, and Lara accepted condolences with an elegant grace that only reinforced her image as the grieving yet strong billionaire widow. Fundraisers and memorial events were organized, and she played her part with meticulous attention. Every smile, every tear, every gesture was calculated to maintain the illusion of innocence. Inside, however, she felt a quiet satisfaction. The obstacle to her empire had been removed, and she had done it without leaving evidence that could immediately incriminate her. The mansion, once a place of shared memories, now felt like a fortress. Lara moved freely through it, unburdened by Adrian's presence, yet aware of the potential for scrutiny. She carefully stored away any materials that could link her to the act, eliminating traces of preparation or experimentation. Each object, each record, was considered for its potential to betray her. She became hyper-aware of her environment, monitoring every staff member, visitor, and delivery. Paranoia and control blended seamlessly, creating a protective cocoon around her life. Outwardly, Lara's empire continued to flourish. Aurora Ledger reached new heights, gaining clients and partnerships that solidified her influence. She attended conferences, spoke at events, and maintained a media presence that reinforced her persona as a visionary leader. No one could suspect that beneath the polished exterior lay the remnants of a cold and calculated crime. She moved with the confidence of someone untouchable, a woman who had mastered not only her business, but the perception of her life itself. Yet, even as she navigated the public sphere with ease, Lara could not entirely escape the subtle ripples of suspicion. Friends and colleagues noticed small inconsistencies, moments when her timing or stories didn't perfectly align. While they dismissed these as stress or grief, she was already learning to anticipate and manipulate perceptions, preparing for the day when attention might turn toward her. The night Adrian died marked both an ending and a beginning, an ending to her marriage and personal connection, and a beginning of a life where wealth, control, and image would dominate every decision, shaping her path into shadows as carefully constructed as her public image. In the weeks following Adrian's death, Lara believed she had executed the perfect crime. Every detail had been meticulously planned, every trace hidden, and the world saw only a grieving widow at the peak of her success. Yet even the most careful plans have cracks, and in the shadows, small inconsistencies began to appear. It started with Aurora Ledger's internal systems, where a tech intern noticed unusual activity linked to Lara's personal account on the night Adrian died. The logs were subtle clicks and file accesses that could have been innocent, but they raised a faint flicker of doubt in someone who knew what to look for. Lara dismissed the minor anomalies herself, confident that nothing could connect her to Adrian's death. She continued attending business meetings, charity galas, and media appearances, her composure unshakable. Yet behind closed doors, she began to sense that the careful balance she had maintained might be unraveling. She noticed the sharp gaze of a few close employees, the hushed whispers of delivery staff, and even the curiosity in neighbors' eyes. Each observation, while seemingly minor, was catalogued and stored in her mind like potential threats, evidence that someone, somewhere, might be watching more closely than she imagined. A neighbor's casual observation became the next piece of the puzzle. They recalled seeing Lara's car leave the mansion at a time she had claimed to be inside, perfectly timed to align with moments she said she was grieving alone. At first, it seemed like a minor oversight, but for law enforcement trained to notice patterns, it became another thread to pull. Investigators began quietly gathering records, cross-referencing timelines, and slowly piecing together the reality that Adrian's death might not have been as simple as a sudden heart attack. Most critically, a forensic expert examining Adrian's medical records discovered a rare compound in his system, something that should not have been there naturally. While it was subtle, it was enough to raise serious questions. The compound was uncommon, and its presence indicated the possibility of external influence. The expert flagged it for further investigation, triggering the quiet reopening of the case. No one contacted Lara immediately. The process was deliberate, methodical, and designed to uncover the truth without alerting her to the scrutiny she was under. Meanwhile, Lara carried on with her public life, unaware of the tightening net around her. She traveled for conferences, expanded her business ventures, and attended glamorous events, still maintaining the image of the perfect billionaire widow. Each step, however, was now being examined in detail. Investigators reconstructed her movements, analyzed digital footprints, and reviewed surveillance footage. Every careful plan she had made to avoid suspicion was being scrutinized with a precision that she had not anticipated. The tension that Lara could not see was building rapidly. What had once been a meticulous exercise in control was now under the watchful eyes of those trained to notice what she had overlooked. Each minor discrepancy, each unexplained log, each witness statement, slowly formed a map pointing directly to her. The mansion she had considered a fortress of security was no longer impenetrable. The very wealth, power, and intelligence that had allowed her to orchestrate Adrian's death so carefully had also made her actions traceable, setting the stage for a confrontation she could neither anticipate nor avoid. By the time investigators were ready to act, Lara remained blissfully unaware of how close the truth had come to catching her. She continued her life with confidence, convinced that she had outsmarted everyone, completely blind to the fact that every move she had made was leaving a trail one that would eventually lead directly back to her. The illusion of perfection was beginning to crumble, and the first shadows of consequence were finally touching the life she had built with such obsessive care. 6 months had passed since Adrian's death, and the world still saw Lara Whitmore as the grieving billionaire widow, a symbol of strength and success. She continued to expand Aurora Ledger, signed new partnerships, and appeared at media events with her signature poise. The mansion, once filled with both love and tension, now felt like a throne room, a space where she reigned over her empire without challenge. She moved through it with confidence, believing that every precaution she had taken ensured her security, her innocence, and her untouchable status. Yet beneath this surface, the culmination of months of meticulous investigation was closing in, a slow and inevitable force that Lara had not anticipated. The morning of her arrest began quietly. Investigators arrived with documents, evidence, and warrants in hand, each piece carefully gathered over the previous months. They had reconstructed the timeline of Adrian's final hours, traced unusual digital activity, and corroborated witness accounts that contradicted Lara's public statements. Each small inconsistency, each trace of the rare compound in Adrian's system, and every digital anomaly collectively painted a picture that could no longer be ignored. The law had been patient, methodical, and unyielding, allowing Lara to continue her life while the truth quietly solidified into an unshakable case. When officers entered the mansion, Lara was at her usual morning routine, preparing for a business meeting. There was no dramatic confrontation, no frantic escape attempt, just the arrival of a reality she had never allowed herself to consider. She was confronted with evidence, warrants, and accusations that left no room for denial. For the first time in months, perhaps years, she experienced a moment of true vulnerability. The empire she had built, the image she had maintained, and the freedom she had believed was absolute were all collapsing around her. The arrest was swift and public. Reporters crowded outside the mansion, capturing every movement, every expression, every detail. The billionaire who had once symbolized brilliance, ambition, and unshakable composure now became a symbol of obsession, greed, and moral collapse. Headlines the following day were unrelenting. Billionaire widow arrested for husband's murder, and wealth, power, and a deadly obsession. The narrative of success and inspiration had been replaced by one of deception, calculation, and ruin. Inside the courtroom, Lara faced the meticulous case built against her. Evidence from digital logs, forensic reports, and witness statements detailed how she had orchestrated Adrian's death, hidden her actions, and maintained her image while planning the crime. Every calculated step she had taken to evade detection was documented and presented with precision. The story that had once been her secret, her ultimate measure of control, was now fully exposed, leaving no room for interpretation or doubt. The collapse of her empire was almost immediate. Investors withdrew, partnerships dissolved, and Aurora Ledger struggled to maintain stability without her leadership. Her wealth, once a symbol of power, could not shield her from legal accountability. Lara's name, once celebrated in the business world, became infamous. She went from being admired to being condemned, the ultimate example of how ambition unchecked by morality can lead to destruction. As Lara entered the prison system, stripped of freedom, luxury, and influence, She was left with only the silence of her choices. The life she had built with obsessive care, the empire she had defended at all costs, and the man she had eliminated to protect it were now reduced to memories, legal records, and public scrutiny. In the quiet of her cell, surrounded by the consequences of her actions, she faced a future shaped not by innovation or ambition, but by the irrevocable consequences of her own decisions. The story of Lara Whitmore became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that the pursuit of wealth and power, when untethered from conscience, can transform even the brightest dream into a path of ruin and despair.